Hello and welcome to Painting Our Monsters. This is going to be the final episode of my first season, and I really appreciate all y'all for subscribing and liking and just watching these videos. It really makes me happy to see y'all out there. This painting is much larger than all the other ones I've ever done, and it's been a real challenge to film, so I just got the monster for you guys. So let's just get into it, huh? You can see I'm just laying down kind of the basic shape of what this guy is going to be. Now, he's kind of a Ankylosaurus-inspired beast, I think. He must have been some old DNA that got mutated from something, maybe some sort of radioactive nuclear waste leaked into an old dinosaur site in Montana or something like that, and this fella's what came out of it. So I know that he's two-toned, and I'm using that to my advantage. So I'm thinking that he's got kind of a softer belly, kind of like a, maybe it's still a shell, but it's not quite as sturdy. And then his back is this darker color, and this back is like armor. And so I'm using those two tones to just kind of separate him and give him a top and a bottom, so to speak. And then we're going to come in here later with other colors to kind of make him look more 3D. But for starters, that's all we're doing. You can see I'm not giving him feet, and I'm not going all the way down on the bottom of that tail because he's going to be a part of this landscape. So we're going to put a bunch of trees in front of him to make him look like he's standing on the shore. Alright, so I kind of got the basic shapes in here, and now I'm coming in and I'm just putting in a little bit of spikes, a little bit of natural defense, And when I'm working on these monsters, I like to work on just part by part. I have a couple different brushes. I got a yellow brush, and I got this more kind of red, burgundy kind of brush. And so I come in and I say, all right, looks like he needs a little bit of some sort of a muscle definition on the chest or some sort of an ab. So I put those in. And then if I want to come back and work on the legs, that's fine too. I know the head right now looks like he's got a funny little fro. He looks like looks like Bob Ross. And we're gonna, I put that in, and that's just a kind of a placeholder. And then you look at that and you say, what do I want to do with that? But I know that I want more detail on these legs. I want him to look all spiky, so I can come in and kind of put all those down there, kind of just working as we go. Now I mixed a little bit of white with that same kind of burgundy color, and we're just putting that in to kind of give him a little bit of a pop, make those things kind of stand out a little bit. And if you don't like something, just paint over it. One wonderful thing about these acrylics is you can just let them dry, and that's all there is to it, and then you can just come on over the top. So I'm just layering in all this different stuff, taking a second to just look, what do I want to do next? That head was too human, wasn't it? So let's turn this into a jaw and see if this works. Spoiler for you, it's not gonna. But if you watch and see, this is one of the fun things about art and about analog art is there's no undo. You can't just go back and undo it. So part of the fun is the challenge of just moving with it, working with it. You could scrape this paint off if you wanted, but I'm just kind of having a good time. He went from kind of a human guy. Now look, we got he's got kind of a Gigan T-Rex with a sunglass thing looking up to the heavens, and that's almost working for me, but then I see something else in there. Now, like I said, Ankylosaurus, right? So let's give him a little bit more on that tail. But all the while, the face is the most important part of these fellas. So the hardest part right now, I'm just looking at that face and I'm saying, I'm going to come back to that. I see you over there, and I'm going to come back to that. And while that happens, we can just work on some other stuff. Put in some more spikes, put in some more highlights, put in some shadows. This is all part of the process, part of being an artist, is this constant refinement, constantly trying to make it a little bit better than your last work. And, that's what I find a lot of fun in. All right, so finally we're ready for the face, and I realized, you know what? That's not a mouth. That's not where his mouth was. He's a whole different guy. Look, it's been one painting, and now this is the third version of this head, of this face. And this is the one that I finally like. So now I'm just putting in a whole different thing. Now, I can already see exactly how I want it to look, but I'm wondering when you can. Okay, do you see what those are now? You see how those are kind of some eyes there? And he's got these sort of ridges on either side of his head. Putting in a little bit of a brighter color. It's like the top of his head has this sort of hard case to protect him, right? When he's battling the other kaiju, man, crack him. He can hit him with the headbutt, no problem. They're not going to come for his neck. He's got these spikes to defend himself. So I'm just coming in and putting in all that, a little indication of what's going on, right? See all these little bits. I'm just thinking, okay, he's got a real spiked face. He's got spiked shoulders. We can't see his back, but I imagine it's just covered in spikes. This fella lays down on his tummy. Whoo, he ain't gonna get through him. putting in a little bit of light here. Again, I'm taking a pause from that face. Letting it dry is one thing I'm doing. The other thing is just being like, hey, that's the most important part of this whole fella. So let's take a step back, okay? Give him some fingernails. Give him some spiky details, This is the fun part for me, working on these guys bit by bit. You start with a basic shape, try to kind of get your proportions and stance right, and then you come in and add all these bits. Look at that. Now he's got a spiky leg. Before it was maybe fur, but now with those real clear paint strokes over there, that's spiky. Now this leg's all kind of messed up, so we come in and use the negative space of the darker paint to make that light look like I did that from the beginning. This is one of the tricks I'm always trying to use more often. I see these other masterful painters online using their darks to push in on their lights, and that makes the lights look super refined. And so I'm trying to learn how to do that too, and I think I did okay down there. You can let me know what you think about that. You can see I put in a little bit of darker yellow on his underneath his sort of pec armor. You can see a little bit of a shadow there. And look, see, now there's his neck, and now all of a sudden his face is popping out, right? We see the shadow of his neck. And there's some more shadows, right, from his muscles. He's kind of got some pectoral, some ab action. If you ever flip a turtle upside down, you can see they got all them lines down there, So we're just kind of going for that too. Okay, now let's try again up on this face. That's going to be the trickiest part of these things. And, when I first started this, I thought I could keep the faces real simple. But the more I do this, the more I realize art is about a challenge. It's about having a vision in your head and trying to make it something special, Try to work in that place where you're not quite comfortable, because that's where it really happens. So I gave him these big purple globs of eyes, and then there's that reflection in there. And to me, just like that, all of a sudden, wow, his eyes are popping right off the page. That's what did it for me. So now it's just a matter of accentuating that and using those eyes and seeing, how do we make it look? How do we make this work? He's got this whole two-tone thing going where he's got this maroon on the back and yellow underneath. So now let's make that clear. He's got a helmet, and then look, here's his two nostrils. He's got like a beak. You see it? He doesn't have teeth like you and I do. He's got like a beak down below. So those are his two nostrils, kind of rounding out that bill, right? So now I'm seeing it more and more, and we're trying to make it look like the top of his head comes over the bottom part, right? So we're going to do that by making this bottom part fade below, and then the top is going to have a clear line that comes through to show us that, okay, that part is cutting through this. You can do a lot of good with a good, well-placed line. Like just like that one. You see now he's got a mouth. Now, the only thing I don't like about that mouth is I showed my father this, and he said, he kind of looks like a little emoji, doesn't he? He's got kind of a smiley face and for a nose, and so I'm going to come back in here and fix that in a minute. But God, I love it. I think he's got a bird face and these great eyes and those spikes. And now we're just putting in a couple shadows here, and those shadows just kind of make it all pop. We're using them to separate surfaces. We're using them to, make like some push things farther back, like there his little, has a little shadow down below. And that's all that is. And those shadows below his horns make him pop. And so now here's the final product. Now I did do a little more work on his nose. I want you to pay attention to that. But look at this. I'm so happy with this painting. This is the best piece of artwork I've ever done in my entire life. And here it is. I got a giant tree, these crazy clouds, maybe too impressionistic, but they're great. And then look at all these. There's a Coke can down there, or a Pepsi can, whatever it is. Litter bugs. That's what he's mad about. And then if we come in close, you can see he's got kind of a little condor nose. I'm real happy with that. I added a little bit of detail on his tail, a little bit of detail on his claws, and that's him. Thank you for joining us today.